Hello and welcome. I'm Jenny Hall. Thanks for joining me for another card making tutorial. Today I have a coloring hack to share with you. A hack is like a shortcut or an inelegant way to get from point A to point B. I have had a lot of feedback about using layering stamps to get a nice clean image. So I'd like to share a few different ways. I'm going to link here up in the upper right hand corner, as well as the video description, the first way that I used a few weeks ago with a layering stamp set by stamping on watercolor paper and muddling the image. Today I'm going to stamp just the outline image in regular dye ink onto thick Whisper White cardstock. Once I have that form in place, then I'm using the Stampin' Blend's alcohol markers to go in and add the filler colors. So instead of being pressured to line up the 3 different stamps that it will take to achieve the look of the apple, I'm using the Stampin' Blend's markers just to add some very simple blending from darker graduating to lighter colors in the middle and leaving a highlight area. The highlight area is colored yellow, and it's not going to really be very bright yellow, but it's going to be a place where the light is hitting and getting a little extra tones. So here's a second example, and I'm using a green, a different assortment of greens. And again, I stamped it in Granny Apple Green regular stamp pad. Now I'm using the markers, and I'll make sure they're all listed down in the video description, and they're also going to be on my blog. So I started off by outlining the image of the apple with the darker color, and then gradually working my way to the middle with the lighter green colors. Added that yellow highlight where it looks like the light would hit it, and then kind of blending everything back out. I also want to mention that I did a color over the original stamped image. It's not going to go anywhere because alcohol and dye ink, they don't react with each other. They just complement each other. So here on the left hand side is the apple that I colored by watercolor. And I did that off screen, and I did that with a watercolor method, so be sure to check that video out. And then the other 2 apples here are just used the one image, and then those markers that you saw me use. So what kind of a difference this makes to take the pressure off of not lining up those stamps. My eyesight is very poor, and if I can use any help, then a coloring hack is going to help me get some success. I hope that this works out for you, and please be sure to ask any questions in the video description. Now that I have 3 beautiful apples, I can create a teacher card, and I just needed a little bit more design accent inspiration. So I brought in another bundle, and this is the beautiful Promenade bundle, and I thought with all of the sharp edges of this little frame stamp, I could use that to kind of offset all of the curves on the apples. And there's also a very beautiful little set of leaves that's in that die set that matches the beautiful Promenade, and it's perfect for me to create some apples, some little leaf complements for the apples. So I wanted them to match the apple coloring, and I used white cardstock to die cut the little leaf sprigs, and then I colored them in the same manner as I colored the apples. I started off by giving them a light coating of a light shade of ink, and then I worked the darker onto one side of the leaf and then went back and blended it in with that first marker. So light, dark, light, and then it just kind of blends in. This little rectangle image is stamped in basic gray, and I used a basic gray layer for my stamp as well, for the card, I'm sorry. And now I'm attaching all of these little apples in kind of a wonky fashion. Not too wonky, but I want them to look like they're just kind of like maybe sitting on a table, looking as beautiful as they possibly can. The frontmost apple is raised on Stampin' Dimensionals, and I also kind of gave the paper a little bit of a curve with my fingers just to make it look like it's more round. And it already looks round because of that initial stamping with the dye ink. The sentiment is just stamped on a piece of regular Whisper White cardstock, and I cut it into a fishtail banner because it's going to give it a little bit of interest, and it also reminds me of something that I would see in a classroom. That's why I chose the basic gray stamping for the background image and for the cardstock layer, because the gray reminded me of a chalkboard, and I've got the sharp lines of the image, and then I'm also have stamped the sentiment in the same gray. So that's also just a stark contrast to the green and red vibrant apples. A few mini glue dots are going to help some of these leaves stay in place, and I'm using the Take a Pick tool, and I've got the pokey end, or we could call it the paper piercing end, but just watch out because it is extremely sharp. We could call it the sharp end. Basic adhesive back sequins in the white color sheet are just going to add a few little highlights, and I very much like the image of these little concentric diamonds. I'm not sure if that's what they are actually are. That's what I'm going to call them. And I thought it would be nice to feature the sentiment, the large sentiment on the inside of the card, and that would really drive home that this is a teacher support card, and it would bring the apple theme to the inside as well. So this little leaf image is also from Beautiful Promenade, and but the Terrific to the Core is again from Picked for You. So I've got two different stamp sets working, and they've worked together so beautifully in this project. I'm very happy with the way it came out. I hope that these tips and this coloring hack is something that you will find useful, and I would love to help you. If you need any help with this technique, then please ask in the video description, and I'll be sure to expound on any information that I can help you with. My best advice is to loosen up and have fun and play with the colors. And remember that this is a creation project and that you're going to share it and have a great time. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching the video. Have a good day.